Hey guys, it's me, Dax Moy from daxmoy.com, back with another short mad rambling, and this one is really about the idea of emptying your bucket. Is your bucket full? That's the question for today. Now look, I mean, this is really quite a simple concept. It's one that I and my team address every single time we take on a new client, and in fact at the start of every single session with every client we work with. It's this idea that people are going through life with a bucket, okay? They have a bucket, and all of the things that are occurring in their life are adding to that bucket, and we generally tend to call it the stress bucket, okay? So let's look at it this way, right? Imagine, as you go through life, there is the bucket, okay? And all things being equal, kind of, you should be going through life with a fairly empty bucket. If you're living a kind of a balanced lifestyle, you're taking care of your sleep, you're taking care of your hydration, you're taking care of all the various stresses, then you should be fine. You know, the bucket is always, you know, it's certainly never coming anywhere near full. You always got kind of an empty bucket. But here's what happens in reality for most people, right? And this is why a lot of people aren't getting the kind of results they most hope to get in life, because it looks something like this. If you have a particularly stressful career, okay, let's say you've got your career stresses and the bucket fills up to this degree, okay, and you think, well, do you know what, that career stress is copable. It can be a stressful job at times, but it's not too bad. Let me say, okay, but at the moment I'm also having some financial stresses, and maybe you're, you know, maybe you're not being paid enough, or maybe your lifestyle requires more money than you're being paid or whatever, right? So you've got your financial stresses. Then maybe you've got kind of relationship and emotional stresses. Maybe you've got a whole bunch of stuff going on in your life right now that is adding an extra layer of stress to the stress bucket, okay? So it's filling up and up and up, okay? Now on top of this, we can look at your nutritional stress, okay? So you're eating a diet that isn't particularly clean, okay? So that's adding a whole bunch of stress. Maybe your workout program is inappropriate. Maybe you're working too hard, right? What tends to happen is that when people very first start training, they tend to approach it from a perspective of, well, if I'm not getting results working at X, I need to work at 2 times X, okay? So that, in other words, if what I'm doing isn't working, maybe I need to work harder. And the idea of this stress bucket is starting to show us really that it's not about working harder, it's about working smarter. Because now look where this physical stress has brought us to. Okay, there's very, very little space left at the top of the bucket here, right? Very little at all. Okay, and now all it takes is the smallest virus to go around the office, or a new argument kind of in your relationships, or a new stress to occur at work, and suddenly the bucket is full. Okay, and it's when the bucket fills, and this first little drip that comes over the side of the bucket, if you will, is what we tend to call breakdown. Okay? Now here's the tricky part. Just because the last thing that went into the bucket might have been an emotional stress, doesn't mean you'll have an emotional breakdown. You might have an immune system breakdown, you might have a breakdown physically, you might get injured, you might kind of succumb to stress, you might, you know, any number of things, depression, anything. This is where the breakdown happens. So it's one of these weird things that, okay, you've got all the stresses going in, all of these different things, and I've not mentioned many of them. Lack of sleep, major stressor, okay? If I was to show you lack of sleep as percentage-wise, it'd be something like at least this, okay, at least this section, okay? Lack of sleep, lack of hydration, big section, okay? Poor nutrition, relationships, finances, okay? All of these different elements, they all add to the stress in the stress bucket. And the fuller the stress bucket becomes, the less you move away from thriving, and the more you move into just pure surviving, okay? So your body isn't doing, and your body or your brain, they're not doing the work required to make you a happy, productive individual. They're doing the work required to perform damage limitation and essentially just keep you going, okay? It's pure survival instinct running at this point. So what am I saying here? Well, what I'm saying is really quite simple. Your first job when you start working to get yourself back in good shape, and I'm not just talking about physical shape, I'm talking about mental shape, I'm talking about emotional shape, financial shape, shaping your relationships, and so on and so forth, is to look at as many possible ways as you can to reduce what is sitting in that stress bucket, okay? So one of the ways we're looking at reducing what's sitting in the stress bucket, certainly with the elimination diet, we look at nutrition. This is why I'm such a stickler for once you've started the ED, see it through, okay? Because otherwise you don't get all the benefit. And for some people, they've been toxic for a very long time. They've had a lot in their bucket, okay? And this toxicity doesn't just come from crappy foods, okay? It comes from hormones being out of whack, from being permanently stressed. Your adrenals are overactive. It comes from not getting enough sleep. It comes from so many different factors that most people simply aren't addressing, okay? So, you know, empty it from a nutritional perspective, okay? Empty the hydration stress by making sure that you're fully hydrated, but at the same time making sure that whilst you're hydrated, you also taking on those, you know, you're taking on the salt, and you're taking on the potassium, and you're taking on the magnesium. All of these things become really, really important. Okay, dealing with sleep stresses by actually making sure that you get your sleep, and actually then, as Tony Robbins says, kill the monster while it's a baby. When things are still a small problem, you know, here's the way Tony Robbins puts it. He says, if you know that Godzilla is one day going to grow to 300 feet and start trampling down buildings in New York City, it's kinder to everyone involved to kill that monster while it's a baby. Okay, it might not be a pleasant task, okay, to go and murder a baby Godzilla, but at the end of the day, you're still going to have to go into combat with it, and you're going to be dealing with it after all of the crap has happened, after all the destruction has occurred. Why not deal with those monsters while they're babies? Deal with those, instead of carrying around those relationship issues in the back of your head. Deal with them, actually get them clean and get them clear. Instead of carrying around those work stresses in your head, speak to the people you need to speak to get rid of them. Because eventually, you are going to have to go into combat with Godzilla. And once Godzilla has grown to 300 feet, it's really hard to beat. But as you can see, the more things we take out of the bucket, the more capacity we have for new stresses that come in. Okay, if at this point you want to train really hard, well, look at all the space you've got here. Okay, you can go into some really hefty training because you've got space in that bucket, and it's not really going to cause a massive drain to you. Okay, it's when the bucket gets full, and this is also the same reason why a lot of people, you know, initially they're interested in the idea that I'm telling them to cut out a load of foods that maybe they've eaten their whole life, and they say, "Hey, Dax, I've been eating this my entire life, and it's never been a problem, and now you're suddenly kind of miraculously telling me that this food is evil and it's causing a problem." Well, first off, there's no such thing as, or in most cases, there's no such thing as an evil food. There are some things that aren't particularly good for you, but where particularly, this is the point when they're really not good for you, is when that stress bucket is full or near full. Okay, now a little bit of what you maybe have always eaten your entire life is really showing its true colours. It's showing for what it is, because that baguette that you had at lunchtime on that wheat that you can't really process is now causing the stress that tips over the bucket. Whereas when you ate the same baguette on an empty bucket, you were down here, you ate the baguette, it's still caused stress. Your body really didn't like it, but it's got all of this capacity to cope with it. Okay, and there's a big difference. It's really important for you to grasp that life is essentially, and the successful life, the happy life, is essentially about how you manage your bucket. Okay, so look, I hope this little mad rambling has kind of taught you a few bits. I hope it's kind of tweaked your imagination and got you thinking a little bit about how you can empty your bucket. For now, this is Dax Moy, daxmoy.com. I'll speak to you soon.